The intent of this video is to understand what cursor editor is, how to use it for speeding up your development process. It can be used by someone who is like a proficient developer or someone who is not connected to dev as well. And that's what the intent is, to get the maximum out of the editor to develop something. These are the features on the screen that you can see, most probably self-explanatory, so nothing much to explain there, but definitely know it's a AI integrated IDE. It can help you build faster. Code completion is provided as with other editors as well. But the most interesting part on this is the composer agent that we'll be seeing, and the referring part. So you can refer to some web, some documentation, give it some image, and then it understand what to do. And that's what the intent of this video will be. You can go on to the cursor website, click on download, get it installed, set it up using IDE, and you should be pretty much getting started with it. Initially, you will see a screen something like this. If you have earlier used Visual Studio Code, it's very similar to this. So on the left, this is like a Visual Studio Code, and on the right hand side is the cursor editor. It's pretty much all of the features are similar visually, but in terms of the AI assistance is something which cursor has addition. So we'll go over that. Putting this aside, let's see what quickly we have on the cursor editor, right? Just to zoom a bit. So now on the left hand side, you have the similar as VS Code, where you can go see your file structure, search, you have your additional plugins that you can install. But on the right hand side, you'll see this AI panel is there, which you can toggle, and there are two options which are majorly used, also the bug finder. So what's the difference between this, right? So that's the whole point of this video. We'll go over using each and either of this and see what's the difference. So just to give you a gist, if you want to do some targeted changes, right, that's when you'll use the chat functionality. But composer is more of like when you want to touch into multiple files and you don't want to approve each and everything. It will auto check which files need to be tapped and then make those changes and just get your approvals. Then how do you enable disable this cursor feature, like the AI feature on this editor, right? So there's a way on here. If you can click on this, you should be able to see whether you want to enable the cursor prediction or not and whatever. Apart from that, I think this screen is like self-explanatory. You can select multiple models that you want are available. I think by default this one performs really good, so you can keep that as default. You can have multiple cursor, like the composer sessions over here, which will be when if you want multiple streams to run in parallel. But I think for now this much should be sufficient. What we'll be trying to do here is build a very simple application using HTML CSS to get started. And the intent here for HTML CSS is because people who have no background of coding can also get started with it and then get something of their own hosted up and running, and pretty fast is what the intent is. Okay, so let's start with our prompt, right? Now what we want to do is we want to build a portfolio or a resume, you would say, and then host it on the web, right? To get started, we'll be putting our prompt. So I would say, okay, create a HTML CSS JS website, which is a portfolio resume for a web, I would say a web developer. Now you can change here and then it should automatically take the intent, but the reason for giving it more specific as a web developer is because I want to see it can pull the projects and other sample things automatically. Now I would say keep this things under consideration, which will be your keep it mobile friendly. I also want it SEO friendly. use, I don't want it to use any additional or advanced styling for now, so let's skip it that way, and let's see what it comes up with. And mind here, we are using the chat window for now, so it will not create any files or whatever thing. It will just suggest us, okay, these are the changes that it is creating, and it will just show us the things. Now you can see you got all the HTML, CSS, Bootstrap, and then it will basically say, okay, these are the files and this is how I have done it. So zooming out a bit, we'd be able to see much more things. I see it has also added like media queries when I said make it mobile friendly. So that's a good part. Now here is the catch, right? So because we are using the chat functionality, it has given us the files, given us what it has done, but it will never make the changes automatically. And that's the main difference between the chat and the composer. So you can go click on apply and each and every file will get created or updated as when required, but not the case with composer. And that's where I feel like if you know what targeted changes you want to make, chat is helpful. But if you are getting started, or you want to tap onto multiple files at once, this is where I would give it. So now we are doing the same thing but with composer, and you can see the changes that will go through, right? So now most probably it will generate the same code base, but here we'll have control over, okay, it will just give us accept all, reject all button, and we can just accept and it will start creating the files onto the folder that we have started with, right? As you see, we can approve it one by one or we can approve it in one go. It started creating the files. Okay, I see save all, reject all, accept all. So I'll just click accept all for now. And we should have this basic version of the app or the portfolio running. Now to run this, because it's just a plain HTML, we can have a web server. There are multiple ways you can do this, but the easiest way to do it in VS Code or the cursor is you have your extensions installed, which is your live server. So this I've already got it installed here. You can see you can install either of this and you should see a button like this on the bottom in the status bar. So once we click on this and click go live, it should have a web server running on this place and we would pretty much be able to see our website. Okay, so let's open it in a web browser. So this is how it will look like. I think with the first render it is like pretty cool that it's able to create this much thing. So it has got like basic description about me, one project, some skills to be added, front end, back end, and contact me, and some footer, which is pretty much good to get started. Even the navigation looks good. Let's see if it's mobile friendly, and it does look mobile friendly as well, and you can actually modify the data if you want based on this, but I would do something which goes one step beyond. Let's try to see if we can pull all this data outside in a JSON and then modify at that place instead of making changes in the HTML itself. So this is where we can see the capability of Composer even now here, where it will be able to tap onto multiple places and make the changes, right? So what I would say is the data from HTML to JSON, so I can modify it in one place. Also, I think this much should be fine for now. Yeah, so this is what I wanted. So once we got it external, I think the changes should be much easier to make. It will add a little bit of JavaScript over here because on the load it might need to fetch that and then apply things, but I'm pretty much seeing these are the changes that I would even make if I want to do something like this. So as you see it, all these things have gone, and then it's probably trying to load it via the JavaScript way. Let's see the output that we have, right, and whether it's affected or not. So we see the first page, about me, projects, skills, and yeah, it pretty much looks the same. What we can also try to do is we can try to see if we are able to modify some data, add it, and then maybe it shows up that thing. So let's say we copy pasted this one thing and said my project 2. Again, here most of the times the cursor will be able to give you suggestions as to say, okay, this is, I only pressed comma and it gives me what I want to do next. So that's a code suggestion that we are getting. But yeah, the main intent here was to see if we are able to see the projects and details that we add, right? So now you see it's automatically getting populated, and we are pretty much set up with the initial version of our website that we wanted. If you want, you can also add icons and stuff. So let's see if we are able to add icon over here, right? So it says your name, right? We'll just go here, and it already knows that we want some logo and it is suggesting us. So I don't think we have any logo here, so it should show a blank kind of thing. Yes, perfect. Let's try to see if we can get some logo generated, right? So I think for this use case, chat would be very useful, right? So let's create a logo SVG with for a software dev. And I think, I'm not sure what it will create, but we will have something to be shown over here, right? I would just copy this, put it in a new folder called as assets images, and just have a new file here which will be like logo.svg, and paste this content over here. Now you can do it either ways. You can just apply here, it will create on the root directory or whatever, but this is the way that we want to go. Now here definitely we'll need to give the path, and that's where I'm seeing if it's able to auto suggest. It goes to assets, but it doesn't go inside it, and then okay, it has auto populated it. Now we can see it should show the image over here, but it's not. We can try to ask why that is not the case, right? We can also annotate this in the code base, so I can just select this and say I want to work on this one, right? I can go command L, and then it will tag this line and say image not visible, please fix. Okay, so it's saying images folder in your directory. Okay, so it's saying I've got to do that way. I still don't agree with it, so I'm not going to apply this, but I would take one suggestion from here, which it was doing is /, and then see if it works for me. It's still not. Okay, let's try to see if it really does that. If we put it into assets, it's able to pull it. No, it's still not able to pull it out. Or is it only for the mobile version? So I'm thinking. Okay, it's not able to pull the SVG somehow. Let's see what's the thing, right? So we've put some thing over here, and then can we change it like this so that it, okay. So the problem here was we were referring to PNG whereas it's SVG, and that is where you need to be very careful with the code base it is suggesting. So I think now it should auto reflect it if we are having the logo.svg. It's assets. Oh, it's not in images, so we'll move it into images and it should start appearing. Okay, perfect. So we got the logo. It's too big. We can either say adjust the height and width from here, right? As you see, it created this logo image, and now I'll try to go into style CSS and see if we can do this. So you got it right. I think I want to reduce the size, and yeah, that's perfect. I want it to be this way only. And now let's see it in the normal version whether it's doing it. Okay, yeah, perfect. So as you see, we've got initial like logo setup, the navigation's correct, it's directly jumping to wherever we want. We are able to change the data also based on this, and this is pretty much functional. If you add your data over here, you can add images and whatever as we added for the logo, but that's for it. So you can see we got pretty fast at a stage where we are able to even deploy this as our portfolio. I don't think this images are missing, so this would look nice. But yeah, that thing what we can do is we can actually go on to the place over here, and we would say I don't want the project project image to be shown, because the image is something which is creating a problem. So I would go to script.js, title, this is not showing up, there's no project image, and I also don't want it, and that's how you will get something better. Okay, yeah, I think this much should be sufficient to get started. So you got a gist of how we can use cursor, create our own portfolio website. I think if we are able to generate a lighthouse report, right? So lighthouse report, what it does is it will analyze the page and say what are the missing parts in our website once we host it. So I see only accessibility is affected, but the other things are all good. So yeah, pretty much the code base is very well generated. Next step, what we can do is we can try to deploy this somewhere. If you want to quickly share is something which I would suggest. You can use a utility known as ngrok. So now what ngrok does is it will provide you a way for you to host your website temporarily. Now there are like installation steps and everything which you can go and do. So it provides a lot of use cases, but this is what is more important to us, which is like the developer preview, right? You can just run a simple command and you will be able to host your website externally. Okay, so let's get a demo of this, right? First thing is we have our website already up using our local server, right, on port 5500. I have ngrok already installed on my local. You can run a command like this and get your website externally exposed via IIP, and that's it. So say what I'm saying is over HTTP, I want to expose my internal running server from this. It will give you a web URL where you can actually see your website hosted. And this is very interesting because you don't need to deploy it somewhere just for your testing purpose. I would definitely try to use this when I'm trying to do a user acceptance test where I don't want to deploy it, but I also want to share the URL. So until your web server is running locally, you'll be able to see this. website running. Let's try to test it. Okay, so we have our web browser here. We paste whatever URL it gave, and it's giving us some warning saying it's served to this and whatever, and I'll say just visit this site. So you can see our same website that we were hosting locally is now available globally as well using this URL. And that is something very interesting. Let us see the image input capability of Cursor and see how it can do things based on the images, right, that we provide as input. I have this one sample portfolio where we can refer things from. So this is like a paid version, but what we're trying to focus here is we want to have something like this, right, where our social icons are displayed just after this or somewhere over here, right? So let's see if we are able to do that. What I would do is I will quickly take a screenshot of this area, right, and say, okay, I want to have social icons like this after my get in touch button. So can we add social icons after get in touch button similar to the image attached? And I'm just pasting the image that we got, and let's see if it is able to figure it out. So definitely will be changes in the index HTML and in the style scripts. I'm not sure why it is adding. Oh, it might add some actions based on the clicks. Okay, and some changes in the data. Okay, let's click accept and see what it's got for us. Yeah, perfect. So you see, we got the exact thing that we provided as input, and to my surprise, it has also added the colors based on the social media. So like Twitter got its blue, Instagram gets a color, and then LinkedIn its blue color. So yeah, that's pretty interesting. It automatically referred and added some animations, and if you see, the image that we provided was pretty same of what it has actually implemented. So that's good. I think that's something which we can see as a feature of Cursor. Other thing, that last one which we would like to do here is get some documentation referred and help that as a reference to change our code base, right? Now all code base that we've written is all HTML and CSS. Let's see if we can add Bootstrap library into this and improve our code base, right? That again should be pretty simple. Let's go to the Bootstrap website, right? So Bootstrap, and then we can go on to their documentation page, which will be here, docs, and we can either read and then go implement one by one, or we give the prompt to our composer. So I would prefer this. We go put at, give the documentation, say add a new doc, give the URL, right? And then also I would say this is my Bootstrap docs latest one, and then say enter. Now what it will do is it will refer all this documentation, right, on that page, and I would say refer this doc and implement in current code base, right? So pretty much what it will do is the custom CSS formatting that we have put, it will remove that and implement the Bootstrap instead. So this will give us a uniform look and feel, definitely, and would in turn be a next stepping stone for the complex things that we can perform with the help of this editor, right? And I won't be surprised if we say give the React documentation and convert this website into React. It will definitely be able to do that as well. So yeah, we accepted the changes that it has provided, and let's see what look and feel is changed. I think the name got removed. That is still fine, but we lost the formatting that we had for this one, so that is messed up, and it has messed up a lot of things. Pretty cool, and that is because the earlier version was able to do it. What is the problem here? I'm not sure what is the problem. Do we see any issues in the console? Yeah, cannot read properties of null, letting add event is. So basically it has modified the script, but it messed up a lot of things. Now this can happen. Let's try to see if we can fix this. We'll just copy this and say getting error client side, and this error that we are getting. Notice we update the Bootstrap link to the latest version. Okay, so it's linking the latest version, and it should be able to pull it out. I don't think why that should be the case. That should not be the case. Like the documentation referring 5.3 is the issue, but let's see if it reflects back. If not, we might need to make some more changes. And the data is not rendered. We can say data not rendered. It was working earlier. Timing of the script execution and Bootstrap initialization. Yeah, that's what I doubt, because earlier it was all visible, and because we added the library, it might have caused the problem. Let's see if it's able to fix it. Yeah, now we are able to see the text. The font has improved a bit different. The formatting has been gone. Again, this one also, it has changed the formatting of the buttons and everything, because it will conform to the Bootstrap formatting way. But we see a lot of these changes are done, and then now we have the Bootstrap way of our website. It has got all of the things similar to Bootstrap. Now we can always go ahead and make further enhancements to it, to say, okay, I want Bootstrap, but I also want a styling like this and all those stuff. But just to give you a gist, like we do have a full functional website over here, which we had Bootstrap from a very like a simple prompt, and then got into complex things. This can go into more complex way, where we can say, okay, convert this to React project or a React Next.js project, and it would definitely help us do that. But the intent here is to understand, okay, how fast can we get from zero to this state where we can actually deploy this website and use it. So that's for it. I think we have got pretty far from where we started. The point here is we got to a place where this is looking like visually better than what we can do manually and in no time. So that's for it. Thank you.